Man, I had to throw the Buffs jersey on for this one. This is a very exciting transfer announcement, and I know Nick Williams must be very, very, very happy and excited today. Sav'ell Smalls, edge defensive end coming over from the University of Washington. This is a very interesting transfer because, I would think right now, outside of Travis Hunter, this is the highest rated transfer that we've had in terms of like what their rating was in high school. Now, I'll get into, after I talk a little bit about Sav'ell Smalls, his accolades, also talk about, what happened at Washington to where he decided to enter the portal. And then I also have some of his huddle highlights here. Couldn't really find much from his time at Washington, but I want you to see the athleticism that he brings. And that's why we're going to turn to the huddle tape at the end. This is a very exciting day, as it is every day to be a Buffs fan now. It's every day is a great day to be a Buff. But Sav'ell Smalls, class of 2020, coming out of high school, 30th ranked overall player nationally, number 3 defensive end, number 1 player rated in his home state of Washington, and then he went to commit and play for his hometown Washington Huskies. He went to high school just outside of Seattle in suburban Seattle. So there were high expectations, and you'll see when you turn on the film, he can do everything. In high school, they had him lining up at not only defensive end, edge, they had him playing linebacker, inside, outside. They had him on offense playing slot receiver, playing tight end. There wasn't anything this guy couldn't do, and it makes sense. Why he was, when you look at that, why he was a 5-star talent and recruit, because you look at his film in high school and it's like, wow, he doesn't have any weaknesses in his game, and he can do so much. And having a guy that has shown that with that potential, that sort of athleticism, is so important. And I believe he is 6'3", around 260. Really bright guy. He was all academic for the Pac-12 conference in 2020 and 2021, I believe. And he didn't really get a lot of playing time at Washington, and that's due, I think, to some reason. One, the performance just hasn't been there. I think he's played in 29 or 30 games. He's only started one of those. He has yet to record a career sack in college football. He has one fumble recovery that he got in 2001, but overall his snaps has been limited. He's been a limited rotational backup player. Now, when he came into Seattle, or University of Washington in Seattle, as a freshman in 2020, that was the COVID year, so he only got in and played a few games that year, but his position coach left after that. And I'll link more of this article that I found on his transfer from the University of Washington, kind of from one of the beat reporters. I forgot his name. I'll put it in the subtitles here. But please go check that out, because that was very insightful. But he just talked about how there wasn't a lot of stability on that defensive staff since he's been here, and really until this past year, Washington has, they haven't had like a ton of success of like having an elite defense or anything like that, and so it's been hard for him to catch on. And I think while on one perspective you're looking at it and saying, well, when you're an athlete like that, it shouldn't really matter who the position coach is. You should be able to go out on the field and ball out, and I think that's fair. I think also, you've probably had instances like this where you've had a great relationship with your boss or who you directly report to, and they leave and they're replaced by somebody else, and it just doesn't go as well, And sometimes a change of scenery is needed for that. So I'm really hoping that Nick Williams, Coach Prime, the rest of the defensive staff is that change of scenery that Sav'ell Smalls needs. And one other thing that was pointed out in this article was that they gave him credit for never taking to Twitter or to social media to criticize coaches, to complain about playing time. None of that. It seems like fans, even though things didn't work out how they hoped at the University of Washington, they really do care for him. I mean, he was probably the top recruit in the history of their program, especially being a hometown kid. And while it's sad that it didn't work out, I think a lot of them are hoping that wherever he would end up, it would be the right change of scenery, and he'd be able to find his game again, find his confidence again, and all of that. And I've listened to some interviews with him as well, and he's you can just tell that he has great character and a level head, and he's wise beyond his years. So welcome to see you, Sav'ell Smalls. Happy to have you here. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the huddle tape. I think you guys will be greatly entertained by this. Let's get a like. Let me know in the comments what you think about Sav'ell Smalls, and let's dive in. All right, Buffs fans, let's just enjoy this. You'll see a couple clips here first of him playing wide receiver, making some pretty difficult catches with coverage. Here's a really nice one. You can see he's just such a big body, kind of goes up there like a basketball player, kind of mosses him in some sense. But you'll notice here when they're showing the defensive highlights, I mean, he rushes from all different spots with his hand in the ground, standing up, on the edge. He'll be, down on the ground inside. And you can see there, I mean, he just sets the edge very well, stays patient. He's able to make the right read and tackle. Here comes a field goal block where he just easily gets by the offensive line there. And again, some more offensive highlights where he's able to just break that tackle from the slot and take it all the way for the touchdown. I mean, his athleticism is just so impressive, and I like that he has a lot of different moves that he's shown here where he's got some finesse rushing moves. He also has an immense amount of power. You'll see kind of a stiff arm move that he shows later on in this tape, which is really impressive, but he can definitely set the edge and stop the run, and that's what you want to see with a player like this, that he's able to rush the passer, he's able to stop the run, he's able to track down ball carriers on other sides of the field, like you see right there. You see here's another offensive play where they kind of line him up as an H-back, I guess, and was able to run that slant and get that touchdown right there. Now I'm also beginning to wonder, will he see a little bit of time at tight end? I mean, he definitely has that physicality and tenacity. He can get downfield. Is this a potential player that will play two ways at CU? That could be exciting. But overall, I mean, you see why he had his pick of school that he wanted to go to. I mean, if it was a major college football program, they most likely offered him. Alabama, Georgia, I think Ohio State was on there, Texas, USC. I think Oklahoma was on there as well, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, this was a top prospect within 2020, a top athlete. And like I said, I mean, if you're Nick Williams, Charles Kelly, Coach Prime, I mean, the rest of the defensive staff, heck, even Tim Brewster, Coach Tim Brewster, you have to be excited to have this sort of athlete on campus, coming to Boulder, going to be on the team. And I would hope that he is used extremely creatively. As you can see, I mean, he's a special player. So thank you for taking the time to watch this. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Continuing to watch this, continuing to watch him make plays from all different spots of the field on both offense and defense. This is something rare, and I'm sure CU has noticed that, and that's why they recruited him so hard in this transfer portal period. So I want to hear your thoughts. What are your expectations? What are your thoughts for Sav'ell Smalls coming over here? I want to know in the comments. And thank you for your time. Let's get a like in there as well if you haven't, and consider subscribing if you haven't as well. So until next time, Buffs Nation, thank you for the engagement and the support, and Sko Buffs.